Let's do it. Okay. Tatiana, would you do a roll call, please?
Okay. Commissioner Ho, Commissioner Rubin, Commissioner Stanton Trahan,
Here.
Vice Chair Quaid,
Here.
Chair Giuliani.
Here. Are there any public comments, either here in person or on Zoom?
We don't have any public comments.
Okay. There are a number of items under the consent calendar that we should need to go through and hopefully can go through quickly. Item number 2 is the minutes from the special meeting on July 24th. Commissioners and Treasurer Zen, did you folks have a chance to read, and do you have any questions or comments? No comment? No comment?
No comment.
Okay. Do we need to vote on this, or is it just a consent and file? Tatiana, we do not need to vote, correct?
Yeah, just consent and file.
I'm sorry, say again.
Approve and file, right? All of them? Yeah.
Make a
Okay, I make a motion, we accept the minutes as presented.
motion.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Received and filed the updated item for number 4, fund balance. This is on tab number 3. Hopefully everyone has had a chance to review it. Are there any questions or comments? Commissioners?
Nope. Nope.
No? I make a motion then that we receive and file the item number 4 as it is written.
I second the motion.
Renee?
Aye. I approve.
Aye. It's received and filed, the treasurer reports. Any comments, Zen, since this is your area of expertise, any comments or corrections or adds? Okay. Commissioners, any review, after reviewing it, any questions, comments, or adds?
Nope. No.
Okay. Make a motion that we receive and file the treasurer report.
So moved.
Okay.
Aye. Approve.
I approve as well.
Aye.
Aye. My goodness, we are efficient this evening. Okay, Tatiana, you teed us up beautifully. Okay, we're on tab number 5 now, and this is something that gives me the greatest of joy. This is the election of a new chair and vice chair for our group. The next item is an election of a member to serve as our chair and vice chair throughout through December 31st, 2026. That's approximately 14 months, 15 months. Tatiana, will you please read the nomination procedure for us?
For each office, the presiding officer will open the floor for nominations. All nominations for the office will be made without a motion or a second. The nominations for that office will then be closed. As the commission secretary, I will ask each member to state the name of the vote for chair. The nominee that receives 3 votes will be elected to serve as chair through December 31st, 2026. The current chair will preside over election of a new chair and vice chair. Once both the chair and vice chairs have been elected, they will take their appropriate seat on the dais, and the new chair will preside over the remainder of the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Tatiana. The nomination period is hereby open. Are there any nominations for the role of chair?
Chair Giuliani, I have a nomination for the chair position,
Please.
and I would like to nominate Nevin Stanton Trahan. Nevin's been on the commission now long enough. He's gotten his feet wet. He knows what's going on. He's had some very insightful comments and questions, so I think he'll do a great job.
Very good. Anyone else? Tatiana, over to you.
Commissioner Nevin Stanton Trahan has been nominated for chair. Do you, Commissioner Stanton Trahan, do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Are there any other nominations?
No.
There being no further nominations, I declare the nomination period closed. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Rubin? Commissioner Ho? Commissioner Stanton Trahan?
Yes.
Commissioner Quaid?
Yes.
And Commissioner Giuliani.
An enthusiastic yes.
Please state the name and
Uh,
Commissioner Nevin Trahan, Stan Trahan, sorry, is elected chair. Congratulations, Chair Stanton Trahan.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The next item is an election of a member to serve as vice chair through December 31, 2026. The nomination period is hereby open. Are there any nominations for vice chair?
I will if you don't want.
Okay. I would enthusiastically nominate our existing vice chair to remain in that role for the named period. And Cynthia has been served with me for the last 4.5 years. I think it's 4.5, yeah, 4. Okay. I have come to depend upon her insightful comments, and her careful reading of materials, as is evidenced by the fact that she has caught finance directors in more mistakes than any other person up on this dais. So be careful, Nick, okay? Okay.
I'll
So
be gentle.
any other nominations? Tatiana?
Commissioner Quaid has been nominated for vice chair. Commissioner Quaid, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do.
Any other nominations? Since she's not here, do we want to nominate? Never mind. That'd be so mean. That would be so
All
mean.
gold.
Are there, okay. Being no further nominations, I declare the nomination period closed. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Rubin? Commissioner Ho? Commissioner Stanton Trahan?
Yes.
Commissioner Quaid?
Yes.
Commissioner Giuliani.
Enthusiastically, yes.
Commissioner Quaid is elected vice chair. Congratulations, Commissioner Quaid.
Okay.
You may now take your positions on the dais as chair and vice chair.
You don't have far to move.
I know. That's pretty nice.
Absolutely. Congratulations. Of course. Congratulations. Yes, sir. I'm going to give this to you so you don't.
Thank you.
I'm honored. Thank you. I think we're on item number 6, under action for discussion, receive and file presentation regarding the Finance Department Work Plan fiscal year 2025, 2026. I believe Nick will be presenting.
Yes, Chair, and congratulations. We look forward to working with new chair, current vice chair, and all of our commissioners this year. So hopefully tonight will set a good tone for the next 14 months or so. So tonight, this item is to go over a presentation with the commission on the major work plan items for the finance department for the upcoming year. We had started to kind of talk about this back in the joint meeting in September, but time ran short. We had the more important item of going over the financials at the time. So we carried that over to tonight's meeting. And it'll be appropriate to go over in more detail with this body anyway. So I'm just going to go through quickly. We have about five major work plans items for the year. Actually more like 6 or 7. And then I do also want to kind of talk about a little bit about the Finance Commission's role in helping us through these work programs. So the first one of our major work programs for the year is to upgrade our current ERP system. ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. That's currently at Springbrook. We're staying with Springbrook. We have a 14-year-old on-premises version of that, which is no longer being supported. So we're upgrading to a cloud-based version that should have a lot more of the bells and whistles. And we also, which will allow us to do a lot more things, particularly reporting, workflow, implement a lot more a lot more checks and balances through processes. So that's going to be a big effort. We've already awarded the purchase order through City Council. We are just working on a kickoff meeting and then get on the implementation team on Springbook's calendar. So we should be doing that shortly after the new year. As you can see here, I have the timeline. We'll be doing a lot of work January through June. A lot of this process is data validation, process review, workflow setup, testing, training. So it's a pretty involved process. So we have a lot to do. And then we're aiming for July, transitioning to that new platform with the beginning of the fiscal year. So if all goes well, we should be able to maintain that. For the core functions, typically GL and payroll are the first two things that we will add. As we go through, we want to incorporate more modules. There's a procurement module, typically there's a permitting module, an HR module, and the more modules that we can have that integrate directly with our ERP, just the better for compatibility and reporting purposes. So, and the outcome here is to really modernize our workflows and increase audit trails, workflow approval, business continuity, particularly after since it will be cloud-based. We should be up and running potentially quickly if we go down at all through if there's a major emergency. With our on-prem, if we can't access the building, we can't access our finance system. So this provides quite a bit of redundancy from in an emergency standpoint. Our second goal is continue is
Pardon me.
sorry.
How will we know when to declare victory on this?
Victory will probably be after we'll implement and probably run dual systems for about a month.
Okay.
So that would be about July. I would anticipate that the beginning of the fiscal year, probably July, August, September, we might want to go a full quarter, particularly because we'll be closing out a lot of last year's transactions. So declaring victory will probably be about this time next year.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
Our second major work plan item is obviously the timely annual audit processing. So we are currently, as we know, we got the 24 audit completed back in September. Mark, our accounting manager, is already working with the auditors for the 2025 audit. So we've completed all our 24, 25 closing processes. Most of the major journal entries have been finished. I know Mark's working on a few smaller ones. And really just, we've gotten auditors all of their everything that they've requested. And so now we're just doing a little bit of back and forth. November, December will be when the auditors help really start putting together financial statements and assembling the ACFR. And we are on track to present the ACFR to City Council and Finance Commission it says January, February here. You'll see on our next, and the next item, we have it's tentatively scheduled for January as a joint meeting with City Council. Again, outcome of being successful in this is that just transparency, better decision-making processes, compliance, we meet a lot of our legal deadlines, and just credibility with not just the community, but credit rating agencies and in report compliance.
Nick, is the auditor already on premises already?
Yeah, so I say on-prem because that's what they used to do in the olden days, back in 2020 teens. Now a lot of it's virtual on-prem. So we just upload everything to a Dropbox and there's a lot of zooming. But yeah, they're already started working on our file. So you may have seen this. This is the budget development process. We used this graphic as we closed out last year's the 25-26 budget process. Again, we're going to start in January with revenue projections. And you'll see a much more robust collaborative process this year. And also this sort of dovetails a bit with, again, our next item in the work plan, and really setting up sort of an intentional curriculum with the Finance Commission. So we're building toward in May, when that proposed budget comes out, I'm hopeful that this commission has a really strong sort of foundation for what to look for in that budget. So that's going to be a big effort, and that's going to be Mr. Will's big big reveal this year, is a whole new budget process. Purchasing policy update. So we did hire. We had not had and I don't want to say a centralized purchasing function, but a collaborative purchasing function in quite some time. So departments were sort of just left to kind of their own devices on how to navigate purchasing. And there's a lot of purchasing rules and requirements, both in our ordinance, but government code. So we do have a purchasing and contracts administrator position now. She's firing on all cylinders. She's basically a consultant to all the departments now on helping them navigate the RFQ process. So she's really ingraining herself in that process. The goal was to update and modernize all of our systems over this upcoming year. In October, she actually already held a training for department staff. It was initial, just kind of a purchasing 101. We did it through Teams. It was kind of a test case. We haven't really done a training through Teams and then record that. And we're trying to do a lot more little sort of half-hour trainings that we then put on our intranet and are available for anyone to any of our staff to reference later on. But that was sort of our first Teams recorded training. I think it went pretty well. There was good feedback. So she's going to continue that series and get more detailed on what she's going to be training on. We want to early in the new year really draft an updated, do some reviews to our purchasing ordinance to make sure that it's modernized, and we do have some of the tools for more efficient purchasing available to us, meaning being able to, and we do use piggybacking, cooperative purchasing, and making sure that we're still meeting bid requirements. But if we don't have to do it ourselves, that usually saves us 3 to 5 months in the whole purchasing process, which again, some time is money in a lot of these efforts. So staff development and training, again, this is sort of our effort, not only our finance staff, but to train all of our operating departments. So as I mentioned with the procurement, that was our initial sort of test run with using Teams to train. We also are going to be putting out training on budget adjustment requests. We're going to be putting out training on payroll and trying to update our payroll processes to make what we can a little bit less paper intensive while we implement our new ERP system. So that's going to be an ongoing throughout the year. And I can provide updates as we get those out. I can provide updates to this commission on what sort of trainings we're putting out there. And just the outcomes of that, we're really looking at, across the organization, consistency, accuracy, accountability, to make sure that all of the departments are operating under the same set of rules, which, we're just trying, again, we want to be consultants to all of our departments so that they understand how to operate and how to be most efficient and implement best practices.
Nick, will those trainings also be on Teams? And
Like,
I speak for myself. Is that something that I would have access to, those trainings?
so they're internal, so it's on the intranet.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't be super interested in those trainings because you'd also have to, a lot of it will be going through our ERP system, right? So only employees have access to those. So it's mostly through our intranet as opposed to being posted publicly, just because they're inward facing, they're really employee facing to make sure that our operating staff knows how to use our tools.
Okay, well, keep in mind that if there is anything that you believe the Finance Commission may benefit from, I would be glad to come in and have coffee with Tatiana one day and sit next to her at her desk and watch whatever training there is.
And I'm sure she would be glad to have you.
I'm sure she would. There you have it. So you have bookends going on there, Tatiana.
Yeah, apparently you haven't seen Tatiana's desk. So she's got barely half of a side available, but
Okay, okay.
Hey, Nick,
be proud of her.
I've done 4 or 5 ERP type of implementations. And tying that into the staff development and training, I think it's great to bring folks together when they all have to work on a major project like that.
Yes.
So, and the training part of it, like, we found that it's almost include more than you really
Mhm.
need to
Mhm.
get the job done, just to make sure
Yes,
we're on the same page.
100% agreed. And even involving not just finance staff, but other staff to review some of the data, right? So they understand why it's important when they're entering data into the ERP that it's quality data, as opposed to just like, oh, I know this box has to have something in it, so I'm just going to put an X, right? But then when you're scrubbing, if you involve the operating staff in sort of you have to review and kind of make sure that the data coming out of your old system can go into your new system seamlessly and make sense. So you have someone like going through all that. And if you didn't take the time to set up your old system correctly and input the data correctly, that's a lot of effort in between. So that's where we like to, um, I won't say punish operating departments, but help them understand why it's important by helping them share the work of going through that
Absolutely.
data. So
Garbage in, garbage out.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Got it.
So I totally agree. We do plan on having an implementation team that will be more than just finance. Yeah, agree. And actually, it presents a good opportunity because as we upgrade, there's already a knowledge base that's been built for the new system that again all of our staff will be able to access on how to how to enter in a requisition or how to enter AP invoices in, right? So that as we upgrade, there's more knowledge base that's already been put together by the developer, by other cities, so that we don't have to reinvent that wheel as well. So our capital improvement program, this year we really want to improve our capital budgeting. I think we got away from sort of best practice capital budgeting over the last few years. And so, typically in a fund accounting system, which we, all government agencies are, you typically appropriate the funds for your capital budgets in the fund that in the appropriate special revenue fund. We have been transferring funds from a special revenue fund to a kind of a general capital fund. So that's made it difficult for tracking purposes. And, we've worked with a few of the Metro auditors to identify better ways to do that. So you'll see most likely at mid-year, we'll probably see a big cleanup entry so that we can sort of reverse that general capital fund to going back to the fund accounting way. And then actually, Will is working very diligently with Public Works and our CIP analyst right now to make sure we can make sure we when we do that we keep sort of the accounting nice and straight. So and then we want it to be kind of as clean as possible going into the 26-27 fiscal year so that we can make sure we're keeping that, we're reinstituting that fund accounting. And then, okay, so finance commission roles, and I think this is important because this is where we need you, and we're asking for your assistance with our work program. So the finance commission is an advisory body providing independent review, feedback, and policy level guidance. So under the finance work plan, so you sort of have 2 subgroups. So I'm showing finance work plan. So reviewing the annual budget is a very important part of what the Finance Commission does. Obviously, reviewing the mid-year, we'll be reviewing the mid-year with this commission as well. Reviewing the annual audit, those are the 3 big pieces most of those are actually joint meetings with council that are very important. And then reviewing policies to align with best practices. So I think a lot of this year will be about best practices and from a government standpoint, best practices really means is really set by a number of the organizations, professional organizations and government regulatory organizations. So for example, GFOA is the Government Finance Officers Association. They have financial reporting awards that if you meet certain criteria, you can get those awards. So again, they're encouraging best practices there. The same thing with the California Society for Municipal Finance Officers. They have award programs that encourage best practices. GAP is the government accounting government principles,
Jim?
generally accepted accounting principles. Thank you. And then
Like a
GASB
street
is
CPA over there.
GASB is Government Accounting Standards Board. So all those are very important, regulatory best practices that we're continuing, that we're making this, we're kind of focusing this year on making sure all of those are being implemented. And then the regular public meetings, and again, this will kind of dovetail into our next agenda item, is really about periodically reviewing in a public setting progress toward our work plan milestones. So, as we go through the next year, I can certainly, we can figure out the best way to do it, but maybe it's through staff communication or, and maybe quarterly can do sort of a quick update that just provides sort of where we are on some of these work plan, kind of check in and milestones. So, and then obviously we want to get Finance Commission's feedback on those items as they come up. So and key themes for this year: modernization, efficiency, transparency, and accountability. A lot of that is through best practices, and then fiscal sustainability. And again, it's just about reporting, making sure that what we're reporting is understood, is clearly understood, and we're being as transparent as feasible with the community and the commission. So with that, we are here for questions and comments.
Nick, out of curiosity, what instigated the moving of finances for CIP projects from Public Works to the Finance Department?
So my experience has always been that finance plays a pivotal role in sort of the counting piece of it, because ultimately we're usually the department that has to deal with the audit, right? So audits are always at the end and the closeout. So if we're not involved throughout the process, from budget through, through budget and planning and appropriating those funds, then it's hard for us to explain to the auditors, why things were spent out of certain funds, right? So now that doesn't mean we're not necessarily we're not in complete control of every piece of it, right? Because Public Works has to be accountable, and they're the ones that have to know what their budget is and know how much they have to spend and know where they're spending it from. So it's definitely a collaboration. I think before, and I have no idea why it went, why we took such a background role in that. I think we're just coming to the forefront a little bit more. We're not taking complete control of it, but we're just being, again, a significant partner with Public Works so that we're better positioned to respond to auditors, respond to questions from the public about where money is being spent. In conjunction, engineers are engineers and accountants are accountants, right? So we both serve our function.
I think we talked about this last time already, but with the large CIP plant spend coming up, it's great that we have a purchasing person now, but to the extent we were talking about how, as opposed to the proper processes and booking these purchases, and this may be completely out of finance department's role, but how do we make sure we're getting the best deals on the contracts that we are signing? How do we put a policy in place where the guy that's going to sign the contract and say, okay, he should go and try to see if he can get an extra 5% off for some kind of payment term or whatever, just kind of have that mentality. Because for a $90 billion kind of that CapEx spend $90 million that we're thinking about, 5% is a good amount of money, right? That's like $4.5 million that we can save if we can save 5% on every contract out of that CIP. So in that regards, I don't know what can be done, but I would like to put some real thought on that. And also, how do we get some people in the role, right? Just today, I was talking to my neighbor who's renovating and talking about how much windows cost. And then we were like, but, and he realized this too. And we both had to do this ourselves as opposed to rely on our architect is when the architect draws the window, he just draws whatever looks nice. But when you actually have to purchase the window, you realize there's actually standard sizes that are maybe like an inch off on each side that will save you a ton of money if you just went with a standard size window. So how do we get some of that worked into our system such that we are being as efficient as we can when spending that money?
Yeah, so that's a big question. First of all, you're describing the classic planner versus engineer where there's conflict, right? The planners want things that are pretty and and then the engineers want things that work, and they're not always the same, right? But beyond that, so I think the best thing that we can do as a government agency to make sure we're getting the best price is really try to get as many bidders and encourage as much competition as possible, right? Because again, there are very strict rules, and a lot of this is California. We're a general law city, so a lot of this is California code about RFPs and how we can interact with bidders. Like for example, everything has to be very equal. We can't just go back and negotiate with one. If we try to ask one bidder for a break, we can't negotiate with
Ask them for a break.
right. So so we have to make sure we're very fair and all that. But again, the best is to have, if we just have one bidder, that's when you start to get they have all the leverage, right?
Right.
So I know we're using this service called Planet Bids right now, which is a service that gets the word, there's a lot of vendors that are out. Not necessarily on big construction projects, but
yeah.
just for our day-to-day stuff. So we are getting multiple bids on a lot of things. And I think that's the biggest thing in our current system that we can do is just encourage competition through bids, and that's how we can drive prices down.
And then also on the other side of that is once we do decide and go with a bid for something, and not for construction necessarily, but I think we ran into this problem in the past when we had projects, whether it was putting in like EV chargers or buying out new fleets. As far as doing the financial analysis, like someone to kind of double check the returns and the finance, the analysis on the back end to make sure that everyone's agreed on the assumptions going in
Yes.
for why this makes sense, and
Yeah.
then the output coming out, so we don't end up having kind of these issues where we're talking about it like 3 years down the line.
Yeah,
Did it make sense or not?
the two biggest budget busters are taking time to get the project done because inflation, like you said, if it takes 2 or 3 years between when you bid it and when you complete it, inflation is going to increase the cost of the raw materials, and then you'll get more change orders, right? And I think that's another thing we always need to be we try to be cognizant of, and we've done this in the past is you'll get vendors that put in a low bid so that they get the job, and then they put in 50, 60, 70 change orders, right? So managing through that contract is the key to that is having very good specs, very detailed job specs, because then you can say when they submit, and we have construction managers and we've done this before, is when they'll submit change orders and you look, well, this change order was actually part of your baseline spec, so we reject the change order, right? So a lot of it's contract management. That's how you sort of keep costs down, and then getting it just done quickly. Because again, the longer it takes, the more that the inflation will eat up into that budget. So, but I agree with all those, particularly as we come up in potentially doing a large street project, getting it done quickly, efficiently. Luckily, those are pretty straightforward and easy to design, so there aren't windows, for those particular types of projects. But I agree, there's making sure you're specing the right materials is important, right? If you can, there's different levels of materials that have very different cost bases, but might do the same thing. So a lot of those, and as we're building up our public works bench, those are a lot of things that we're on a finance side stressing with them as they go through these.
I think what I was trying to say in the second part is we end up also have these projects where we're for example, we replace the entire fleet of our police vehicles, and then there was some analysis that was done on the cost efficiency of that. And I don't think it fully got the buy-in of, people, some people
Hopefully
said,
not.
right, that it was not the right numbers going in, such so the numbers going out, like, getting that set up, right? Similarly, I think it was, I think we did some crazy like spent some large amount of money doing like bows or lights. And then people were like, well, where's the financial analysis for having spent like $30,000 putting bows along? Like, just how do we build some of that to say, hey, does that make sense financially to maybe rent or pay this on an annual basis, or we buy it and then we hold
Yeah.
on to it and install it ourselves? Those type of discussion points.
Zen's bringing up projects that
That's
had-
happened in the past,
have
which
happened
is
in the
why
past,
you
okay.
probably are not.
PTSD, okay, that's important. But she's also pointing out that sometimes we here in South Pasadena fall in love with a project and we put on blinders and we don't see where there could be potential bumps in the road, or we don't do a good job of doing our due diligence.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I understood. And I think from a finance perspective, one of the things I've committed even with council is to make sure we're spending time on the fiscal impact section of the council of
Yeah.
of our staff reports. Sometimes those are very quick turnarounds, like 2 or 3 days. So we don't always get to put in as much as we would like to, but we're trying to really make sure we're focusing on more robust fiscal impact. Ultimately, the council's going to make if they're in love with it, the political, maybe some of the policy considerations outweigh some of the fiscal considerations. I think our duty is just to put them out there, right?
Yes.
And then, yeah.
Yes, just having accurate representations in that fiscal impact
Yeah.
section.
Agreed.
And the
Yeah.
courage to do so.
And then,
Understood.
and from my perspective, I think it's important that finance is the end all be all, and public works, all the projects actually go through finance so that we have that backing. So I actually think the new structure is actually a good thing. And that way we can get these ROIs that you're talking about.
Nick, a couple questions, one piece of counsel. Whoever this person is, the person, policy, contract administrator,
Mhm.
I'm sure that they're a smart person, but one of the things they should be looking at, if in the contract, how to create a change order
Mhm.
takes more than two paragraphs, that's a contractor you need to be very, very concerned about. Okay? I'm
Gotcha.
just telling you.
Yeah.
This is
That's
40
fine.
years, this is 40 years of bruises and cuts that I'm showing right now. Okay? So if it takes longer than two paragraphs
Mhm.
to put it in the contract, you know that they intend to do exactly what you outlined.
Yeah.
Low bid, high change orders. Okay, first thing. Second thing, as you're going through this, I'm doing a mental Gantt chart. I'm putting all these things on a calendar. Got all these stripes going across, and I'm seeing pinch points. Okay, and also you got to get the washout on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, and quarterly basis. Okay, are you properly staffed at this point to do so? And you don't have to answer it in this moment.
Yeah.
But it just feels like you're taking on a lot here, my friend.
Yeah. Well, I can say that as a general rule, as a small city with limited resources, none of us are properly staffed. That being said,
Boy, did I walk into that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Public Works, I don't think Finance, I don't think the Police Department. We could always do a better job with more staff.
Mhm.
That being said, I think the staff that I have is top notch.
Okay.
Particularly after some of the organizational changes Todd has implemented with City Council and some of the salary adjustments. So I've been very fortunate to have a high functioning staff that
Okay.
may not have always been the case. So
You're here.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to come to us and then subsequently city council asking for consultant help. We've gotten used to living with consultants at this point. Okay. Don't like it, but yeah.
The current,
What page are you on then?
the last page of section 6.
this, I believe, was in the budget.
Ah,
Is this the right structure currently?
Is there something that?
No, no, I'm
All
just
right.
curious.
Okay.
Because if this is,
I feel like there's a trap.
because
I'm just trying to not walk into it.
because we also, with all the new people, I would love to like try to stick a name next to these boxes so I
Gotcha.
know who's where,
Yeah, yeah.
if this is the right box set to go with.
This does reflect our current makeup. Yeah.
This is current, not aspirational, right?
No, correct. Yes, this is what's budgeted. This is what we had budgeted. We have 11 full-time positions,
Okay.
which are reflected here. I mean, one of them is an IT manager, so IT is under finance. But yes, the rest of them are all accurate. Yeah.
Okay.
And no vacancy.
And there's a name for each
Please
of these
keep that.
boxes now?
Yep, there is indeed. You want me to go over them?
Don't you want to, yeah, I'd be curious to know, but
This
I
would
don't need
be
to
a-
take
this would be a-
everyone's
Should
time.
we do it in pencil or pen?
No, so and of course. So our accounting manager is Mark Siegfried. He's sitting here. Our accountant is Wendy Liu. Is Ani. Ani is our payroll technician or our payroll. So she's our accountant. Our accounting technician is Wendy. Our senior accountant is Ashley. Our management assistant is Katrina. On the budget and purchasing side, purchasing and budget manager is Will in the back here. Our CIP analyst is Anahit. Our management analyst is Miss Tatiana here. And our procurement contract administrator is Joan. And then our IT manager is Tim Schofield. He started about a month ago.
Okay.
I think that we hit everybody.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And
And we do have, I will say, we do also have some consultant help. We have a couple temp from accounting agencies,
makes sense.
Rakshana and Daniel, who help with kind of lower end transactions. But I will say it's actually, I wanted to kind of start not relying on that consultant or those temp agency help, that temp agency help. Oh, and Herman, our AP. But I do think as we head into the ERP implementation, we're going to want our full-time staff to really be able to focus on that implementation. So we'll probably keep those temp employees available through our implementation so that we can supplement, so they can continue to do the day-to-day tasks and we can focus on implementation.
I had just one thing on your key themes, and I think we've been talking about this for a long time, is just the long-term strategy.
Mhm.
And I think just keeping an eye on that. It could be under the fiscal
Yeah.
sustainability portion
Yeah.
of it, but I think we're not just looking year to year, we're looking for a long-term strategy.
Yeah.
All right. No more comments on 6?
Nick, one more thing on the ERP implementation. As Nevin pointed out, he's been through 4 or 5. I've been through a bunch of them myself. I've focused on SAP, Oracle, PeopleSoft when it wasn't Oracle, and Bond, which is no longer in existence. So my role in those things were always the human side of the transaction. Do yourself a favor. I don't know who your don't put an accountant in that role, not you.
Right.
Okay. But you're going to have to identify small wins.
Yeah.
Because that ERP implement, that's a slog.
Yeah.
It really is. So we're going to have to find one reason a month to pop champagne. I'm serious, guy.
Agreed. Milestones, right?
Right? Well, no, milestones are something different.
But
Celebrations.
Well, let's call them yard stones.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Okay. Because at the end of the day, your team is going to get burnt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agreed. And I think and also having gone through a couple ERP implementations, many of the private sector software packages are very tech heavy, meaning you probably have to have your own business analyst, IT person that actually codes on site, particularly with Oracle and PeopleSoft, SAP, because they're very, they really want to make that specific to whatever your business, model is. Fortunately, most governments, we all want to think that we're special and unique, but most governments have a similar operating structure, right? We're all formed under the general laws of California, right? So fortunately, most of the we don't have to do any programming. It's quote unquote out of the box, but there are things within that that we can customize to how we do, the workflows, sort of skipping steps in certain places, adding steps in certain places, but at least we don't have to have an on-site coder that's like writing new code to make sure. But I agree with you, there's always the human side that we need to make sure people are happy. I'll bring in, donuts and sugar every once in a while. Yeah.
Do that. The Domino's does deliver, I assure you. And then second thing that I would recommend is over the last 3 or 4 years, yours and Todd's predecessors purchased some software that was meant to be reporting software. I asked Todd in public forum, said, have we put a stake in the heart of that stuff? He said, it's not even on life support anymore. Please declare it dead.
Yeah.
And make it go away and make sure the city council understands that they should have no more expectations around those reports.
Sure. And I will say that we already canceled, what's the name of that? Questica, which was the forecasting software, but we also have another one, OpenGov. So we had multiple software
Yes.
packages. So OpenGov, I'm somewhat familiar with, and it's a little bit easier to work with. We're having a meeting with them upcoming to see, if it will continue to meet our needs. If not, again, we'd rather cut ties and not continue to spend the money. So we are evaluating.
I recommend that when that decision's made, you make it public because there are a lot of people still holding on to that.
Gotcha. We'll do.
Fair.
Questions, comments? All right, move on to item 7 then. Proposed fiscal year 2025-2026 Finance Commission regular meeting schedule and topics of discussion.
Thank you. So now that we have our chair and vice chair for the year, we thought this would be a good opportunity to talk about how we want this year, what we want this year to look like. So really, we want to use this as a little bit of a planning meeting. We have 10 regular meetings in a year, and we've generally tried to make them the 4th Thursday of each month just to kind of maintain consistency. There are some joint meetings throughout the year, which are on Wednesdays, so those will change. But these were kind of the parameters we were working with. And the purpose of having an annual planning meeting is really just ensure that we have a structured way to move forward throughout the year. The bullet point number 2 is really important to me. It's really an intentional curriculum that we're wanting to align the discussions we have at the Finance Commission with kind of the city's financial cycles, right? We have the budget cycle, the audit cycle, mid-year reviews. So we can align those two by having some planned content for each meeting. And then again, it just enhances public transparency. So now we have a plan for the entire year that people can at least look at and have some idea of what we might be talking about, months before we talk about it. So our next meeting on November 20th, I put a little theme. I may or may not have some help with AI on these themes. But the theme for the November meeting would really be building fiscal resilience, policy, protection, and perspective. So this would be a good time. I know Chair Stanton Trahan had recommended an economic outlook. This is actually December is a good time to do that because it sets us up for our January revenue projection. So we can go through an economic outlook presentation on November 20th, review our city financial policies. I think we kind of do that every year, but we'll do an overview of all of our existing policies and would love to get feedback if there's anything you think needs to be amended. Again, as we go into the budget season. And then this October is sort of cybersecurity month. So we didn't get anything today, but I do think so November, I do think the recommendation of cybersecurity and financial controls, I think, is a good one. We're actually just finishing up some cybersecurity efforts, and I'll get our IT manager, Tim Schofield, will come out and he'll talk a little bit about our cybersecurity. I think that's obviously protecting our data is always important, and especially in finance.
Nick, I don't know how to put this on the agenda here, but I really like what Nevin said earlier about we should be doing this through the lens of, is this sustainable? So I don't know about the rest of the commission. I'm really exhausted by being a fireman.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So as we're planning, as we're doing these things, will it work today? Will it work 12 months from now? Will it work 5 years from now? So putting into practice what Nevin suggested, with a vision to make it as sustainable and long-term.
Yeah, and I think as we get feedback on the schedule, and this schedule can be a living schedule, right? I mean, this doesn't need to be set in stone. We'll need to pivot throughout the year as things come up. But I think about this like every year around this time, it was probably about, to back to your sustainability, like we should always be talking about economic outlets every year. Every year we should be talking about our policies and cybersecurity, because that's going to change every year as well. So we did try to look at this through a lens of things that will be useful year after year.
Yep.
December,
Nick,
we would.
before we move on, can I
Sure.
just make a general comment? I think if you go through the work plan on a lot of these things, I think I've tried to add in, and I just want to make a quick comment just so I'm not tied to any of them.
Mhm.
So feel free, commissioners and staff team, like push back, right? Like it's totally okay. I was just trying to kind of come up with a plan. My experience on the commission has been absolutely wonderful. And I'm blessed now to serve as your chair, but I think part of it was the education, the accountability and transparency that we are trying to build with this commission and with the city. Like we need to be more and better educated, which obviously results in the public being more and better educated. And I think that was kind of the theme. Like I tried to kind of create little themes into each month so that we're better commissioners. We can help the public understand what's going on. You as a staff team, this, for me, government funding is somewhat of a different language, although I have some experience in the past with it. So I think that was kind of my idea with some of this, but I obviously welcome everyone's input on pushing back on some of these things. And maybe we don't need it here, or maybe it's not the right timing for it, Nick. Like I just threw some ideas out, so feel free to push back.
Yeah, no, I would, except I think they were all very useful as content, and honestly, like it shouldn't be us here telling you what we think you should know. We really want to know what you want to know, right? So I think that's more valuable than us telling you what I think you should know.
Appreciate that.
December, we would propose at least going dark for the holidays. That fourth week we're actually
Feels
usually
negative.
closed.
How about just break for the holiday?
I don't know. Yeah, no, dark is sort of an odd, but it's kind of our government speak, right? We go dark,
Yeah.
but yeah, we'll say break for the holiday break. January 21st, this would be a Wednesday. We propose this as the joint one. Tentatively, I'm making Mark sweat over there because I'm giving him a deadline. But tentatively, this would be our review of the 24-25 audited financial statements. And then I think in addition to that,
So it's not dark for you, Mark.
no, Mark's gonna be doing double time over
No
over
holiday.
the holiday break. Yeah. And I think that's also a good time to really talk about pension and OPEB and sort of funding strategies, because those are our biggest liabilities that you'll see on the financial statement. So that might be a good opportunity to talk
I'm
about those.
curious, to what extent are we talking about funding strategies for pensions and such? And what kind of, is this, hey, we should talk about it as a kickstart to start talking about it? Or are we doing work, again, back to just me planning, like,
Yeah.
should we be trying to talk to some consultants, peoples, et cetera, about what our current
Sure.
situation looks like ahead of this?
So I think this one will be sort of introducing the typical ways that we could fund these, or typical and then because again, since this will be joint, will probably be limited in time with city council. I've certainly worked with and I went through the issue is that each one of these meetings will have a topic like this that we could spend a whole year on, right? Like, so the OPEB and pension in my past, we went through a whole funding strategy. We hired a consultant. We did this, and it was half of a year going
Okay,
through
so-
and educating. So
this is
I think
the-
this would
the
be
start.
Yeah, I think this is the
Okay.
start. Yes, and honestly, I think this will probably be there's things that can come out of this direction that can come out of this, and we might have additional study sessions. So particularly if you're interested,
It's-
I think the problem with pension and OPEB is that there's some limitations on what we can do and what we can't do. So but I want to,
I guess I'm trying to say, are we doing some studies ahead of this meeting, or is this meeting to just say, are we going to do some studies after this meeting?
This will be basically, we'll go over that, we get an actuarial that will show what our liabilities are. And then certain ways and we can go over just some typical strategies that cities use to reduce those, right? And they all center around putting more money into those, right? So that's a trade-off, that's a resource allocation question. Or what are we going to take money away from to put them in here, right? Or, but I think that's the three will just be sort of more of a conceptual, these are ways that we could start chipping away. And we've actually already have a trust that we set up a few years ago. And I can talk about things that we've already done. And I think that's kind of starting a discussion. Then moving forward would be where we would want more like direction, feedback, recommendations to city council. Because quite frankly, one of the recommendations that could come out of this is maybe in April, we have a little bit more of a study session on these. And then we recommend, and then this commission, for example, could recommend that council puts additional funding from either the general fund reserves, or if there are savings from, if we have a surplus from the prior fiscal year, that we put that into our OPEB trust fund, right? So, which then means that's for retiree health. That's the fund retiree health. So there's different strategies like that. And those are things that could come out of this commission. This particular meeting will probably just be introducing some of those. And then if we get direction, let's do more study on this. I mean, I think that's where that next step would come.
Zen, I thought you were going down the road, and it sounds like you are. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Tell us what you want us to do at the end of this. Don't leave it hanging, because sometimes we got data overload or information overload. Tell us what you want us to do with it, how you want us to process it.
Yeah.
And what direction you might be desiring, or direction around which elements.
Gotcha.
Makes
And
sense.
yeah, no,
Okay.
yeah, it does. Yeah. And I think as we go through sort of presenting what some of the strategies are, I think you'll just naturally have questions and say, well, why don't we do more of this, right? So
Right.
a lot of that will resolve itself organically.
Nick, I don't know who's responsible for it, but as I flip through your agenda items on these meetings, I don't see anything in here about a review insurance.
Yeah, well, that's what we're having tonight for. Yeah,
Okay.
we can go over.
It needs to
Yeah.
be somewhere.
Yeah.
It feels like that was an issue 18 months, 2 years ago, and it just has, we got so many other things got in the way of
Yeah.
giving that thought.
Yeah, and that may be as we go through, probably the first Q1 of next year may be a good review, because we do have some efforts going right now where we've hired a consultant, Gallagher, that's
Mhm.
actually looking at some of our insurance programs. So we'll probably have more of a report that we can give, I would say, more toward the end of Q1. So again, about being like, back to pivoting and adding things to this, right? I think that's a great recommendation, and when that is available, then we can maybe bring that forward.
Thank
Be a
you.
good opportunity. February 26th, this is another mid-year checkpoint. So we would try to present this to this commission before it goes to the council. And typically it's the end of February. So again, reviewing the mid-year, discussing, and then typically I use the mid-year as also a kickoff for the next fiscal year. So here's our mid-year where we are in the middle of this fiscal year, and then lay out the budget process and calendar for the upcoming fiscal year. So that's kind of a kickoff. And then I think debt capacity and capital financing would be a really good opportunity to sort of go through, some of our outstanding bonds, and like where are there opportunities to potentially refund some of those bonds at a better interest rate, right? And what that means. So I can actually also bring someone in that's a financial consultant that can kind of talk a little bit about that. And debt, and you'll see, we don't have a lot of debt here, which is great. But certainly debt has its uses to be able to make big dents in certain projects. So I think that's a great time to talk about it.
Forward looking also, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Forward looking indeed. March 26th, we're thinking of the understanding city funds and revenues. So again, this would be a really good opportunity to, before the budget comes out, we can talk about our enterprise funds, special revenue funds, internal service funds. They all have very different uses. They actually have 3 different ways you account for them. So I think that's important. We didn't really focus much during last year's budget on enterprise or internal service funds. We really just sort of talked about the general fund, right? Because that's our main operating fund. But enterprise funds and internal service funds play a very pivotal role in operations. So we'll do sort of not necessarily a 101, maybe a 202 on those funds, and go through sort of the fund balance for each of those. And then this is where we'll probably start the monthly budget reports. So this would actually be kind of the second monthly budget report. The mid-year will be our first monthly budget report. That will be through December. And then after that, we're going to attempt the cadence of every month. But as I mentioned, I think before, you'll see it about the monthly budget to actual report will be about 45 days at the end, after the end of each month, so that we can account for all the payroll that gets accrued back to the month, invoices that were technically incurred in January but not paid until February. We're always trying to post those to the correct period. So that will be through January. We'll go over that first one together and make sure that's what you're looking at. And then revenue trend analysis. We do this again. We'll be doing this through the budget. So just showing property tax, sales tax, some of our major tax revenues and what those have looked like in the past, and how we're looking at forecasting them for the upcoming budget.
Nick,
Yes.
for the monthly budget report, will forecasting be ready by this time or not yet?
So I think if you look at April, I have the 5-year projection. So
But I'm
that would
saying
be
like on a monthly or this 45-day lag, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like forecasting kind of where we might end up, or is that possible by this date, or you need more time?
It won't be super accurate by then, quite frankly. What we typically do is we'll take the budget, especially on the expenditure side, the budget divide by 12, and then we'll have, and it's a little bit more reliable from expenditures where, you should be around 50% at mid-year, and then, 62%, so we'll have that budget to actual and on a month basis where we're at. Revenues are just, here they're a little bit more stable because it's property tax, so we can do a little bit more reliable. We can have a little bit more reliable of a projection. Some cities that are very sales tax heavy, it's very hard because the timing of when we receive sales tax is always up and down. And like if you have a Costco, right? Sometimes they decide I'm going to wait 2 quarters before I actually pay my taxes, right? And then you have a $200,000, like it looks like you're way under, but then they'll do a catch-up payment 2 quarters later, and so that's really up and down. We're not really like that, so we can certainly have more of a forecasting. Like we know we're going to get a lot of money in December, and we're going to get a lot of money in April from property tax, so that we can certainly.
I guess this is part of sort of the long-term
Yeah.
strategy of like, I know this is kind of our baseline year to
Yeah.
figure this out, but like starting to see where those
Yeah.
trends are, like we know we're going to get our big bumps here and
Yeah.
there. And then I think that just helps
Yeah,
maybe with the
totally.
long-term planning and budget process.
And actually, Will is working on right now, and this is for the treasurer's report. He's working on like a strict cash flow, so not worrying about the accounting piece of it, right? Because it doesn't always match up, but just like cash in, cash out, and we have that in the bank statement. So we're just going to do simple line graphs to see, so you'll be able to see, particularly on the treasurer's reports going forward. Hopefully, we get that in the next one, where there's going to be every year there's a big spike in July. A lot of money goes out in July because we're prepaying a lot of things to take advantage of. If you pay for the year, it's a little cheaper, right? So there's big spikes throughout the year, both in money going out and then money coming in. So yeah, that will all be part of that. That's part of the treasurer's report, but we can certainly incorporate that and overlay that into the budget report.
And then I think it does help then probably with
Yeah.
your investment, because then you'll know when you need the cash, when we don't need the cash. And I just think getting those trends is the long-term
So
strategy.
part of the thing that we sign off on is that we have enough liquidity for the next 6 months. And it's been the same question is, well, what is our liquidity need for the next 6 months? So I think we're finally, in a position to try to answer that question. Thank you.
Yes. So the April meeting, and it'll start to pick up a little bit. We start to bunch some of these together as we get into budget. So I'll go through a little quicker. But reviewing the investment policy, we always want to do that. We have to do that every year around April, May. The 5-year projection, general fund 5-year projection, will be in April, and then so the climate and fiscal and sustainability fiscal impact. Actually, we at the last council meeting have talked about the cost out. Oh God, this is my finance brain takes over. It's a cap, and in my head, that's cost allocation plan. But for everyone else, it's climate action plan. So we're actually having an ad hoc to review the climate action plan. So obviously, fiscal sustainability is a piece of that. So by April, and April is Earth Month, right? I think so. I see. I
Yeah,
see
you
what
got
you're
it,
doing there.
yeah.
Yeah. But I think we'll have some good kind of updates on the fiscal impact of some of our efforts.
Do you need that ahead of time, or April's like a decent?
I think April is perfect. April's perfect. And it may even be a good opportunity to I think April / May. Well, we should have the operating budget by then. But April may be a good opportunity if there's other study sessions we want to put in there. Like that might be a good opportunity to do it in May as well. Like if there's follow up on the OPEB, or pension funding strategies, right? May 14th is what we anticipate the joint meeting with the city council no, actually, this is just the joint is the next one, but is to propose the proposed budget to the finance commission. And then the June would be that joint meeting. So May and June are kind of budget and CIP months. July we'll go over the year-end closing process. That might be when we'll have very high level sort of where we think we might end the year, which we'll have a lot of caveats on because that will change. But that we can kind of talk a little bit about the process, and we'll go through the audit schedule, and then talk about some grant funding. I think actually between July and September, both of those, well, August, we thought break for summer would be a good summer break. Both between July and September, there's some good revenue opportunity or revenue discussion opportunities, particularly on grant funding, economic development, and then voter approved tax measures. If we have one if we do have something coming in November, July and September would be a good opportunity to talk about those. And then, so what we have in the staff report is then a reorg in October, but that as I was reading it again today, I was like, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because we just appointed you through December. And also our ordinance kind of talks about reorg being closer to January, February. However, I would ask that we don't do it in January because January is going to usually be the audit. So we want to maybe have everything done. So I was going to talk about October being more of a makeup or any content that we want to sort of get additional like throughout the year. October would be a good opportunity to use that for study sessions and whatnot. Maybe take our holiday break in instead of taking a holiday break in December, take a holiday break in November for Thanksgiving, and then have like a special meeting in early December that's focused mostly on reorg and the planning for the upcoming year. And then January, we'll kick it off again. So that was the sort of pivot I was thinking as I was putting this together. And I was like, oh, wait, that doesn't make sense. So that would be staff's recommendation. And that's the whole potential, the plan for now. And that, again, we can certainly pivot, add, delete, whatever we need to do as we go through, but at least we have a curriculum for the year.
Now I'm going to be a grumpy old man. Can we put these dates on our calendar?
Tatiana is already excited to put an Outlook calendar on first thing tomorrow morning for all 10 dates. Yeah.
Perfect. No more jumping around. Thank you.
And we'll add insurance somewhere
Yes,
Yes.
I think the April, May, good. Well, when I get the report back from Gallagher, then, we'll schedule it in. Mhm.
Question? Comments? Do we have to approve this or?
I think it's more of a receive and
File,
file.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll add insurance, and then I'll make that adjustment with the, October being sort of a TBD.
Yeah.
In November as a break, and then December we'll put something on, probably like the second week in December to do the reorg and planning.
Perfect. Excellent. All right. Thank you, Nick. Well, we don't have Janet here, so no city council. Any staff liaison communications? Who is that? What's staff? Okay, anything? Take the mic, sir.
Yes. So for our next meeting, we will be having it at the library. What room is that, Tatiana? The community room is where we had our last meeting when we were doing the um, the the budget community meeting. Yeah, we'll be having it there.
Same
At
time.
Same time.
Thank you.
Right. All right. Any commissioner or Zen as well? Communications? Renee, you want to start? Vice Chair? See?
I am so psyched to see dates we can depend upon. Thank you.
Zen, anything from you? No, well, thank you. I'm just honored to serve this great city, and I'm glad we have a plan for the year and a long-term strategy. So thank you all. And with that, I think we'll adjourn. Oh my.